Okay, so let's go and talk about numbers and businesses and why numbers are the lifeblood of a business. So, one of the challenges we have in property is to get our numbers correct. It's the biggest reason why most property businesses and actually businesses in general fail is because people don't have their numbers correct. My good friend and business colleague, Keely, is always shouting at me. Not really shouting, she's not like that. But she's always saying when I send a deal to the team, Ben, we need to get the comparables and we need to know the addresses of the properties. Now, what's a comparable? A comparable is how much the properties in that street sell for, how much they've sold for in the last couple of years, and projected forward, what is the likelihood of the price either remaining the same or going up. So what is the property, what's the highest and what is the lowest? That is a comparable. Based on that, when we buy a property, we know whether it's a good price or a bad price. Now, we know that many estate agents and people who sell properties actually increase the standard price by about 10%. So we already know that we have a negotiation price below whatever number they quote. But whether it's a good deal or not is a totally different thing. So we want to have great deals. The next set of numbers we need to know in property is if we were to keep it, how much can we make on the rental? How much can we make as a rental as a family home? How much can we make as renting each each room out in a house? In other words, have a multi-let or an HMO, house of multiple occupation. And how likely, see, these are all numbers, how likely are we to be able to get renters? And we can find out which streets are great for renting and which aren't. So these are all really important numbers. Why do I mention numbers? Well, because I often get requests to look and invest in other people's deals. And I think I've done many broadcasts before. Most people's numbers are wrong. Yes, absolutely, they're wrong. And why are they wrong? Because either they've not done their due diligence on the comparables, or they've just believed somebody has said it's a good deal and then passed it on to me. For example, the person, and we've had this in the property world, may have been a coach or a mentor, and they've outsourced the property to one of their students. I see this a lot, by the way. I see a lot of coaches and people who are mentoring other people in business say that something is a good deal, and actually it's not. It's some kind of Ponzi scheme. It's actually terrible and very sad. I can give a whole bunch of deals that I've seen and a whole bunch of businesses. If you do due diligence on some of those coaches, you will see that they're actually losing money in their businesses. So this is a really important understanding that you need to know. Now, I also get approached quite a bit to invest in people's, not just their properties, but their businesses. So at the moment, I have on the cards requests for investment from anything from 50,000 to actually about 20 or 30 million. Now, I know that most of those people I will not invest in. And we've been through some of that. First of all, I need to get to know you and your team. But here are some other things that people do wrong. They for example, they talk about everything else apart from the numbers. They talk about how wonderful they are. They talk about how wonderful the team is. They talk about how wonderful the surrounding partners are. We've got this celebrity and that celebrity, and this person is amazing at this. But I don't have any numbers. And what numbers am I looking for? I'm looking for how much does everything cost? That's it. How much does everything cost? And I need a breakdown, not, hey, it's going to cost us £1 million, because I know it's not going to cost you £1 million at all. It's very rarely ends in lots of zeros. So when somebody asks me for 100,000, I instantly know they haven't done their numbers, unless they may say, actually, it's 97,463, but we're after 100,000. The second thing I know about their numbers not being correct is because they've put their expenditure like that, and they're asking exactly for that expenditure. Now, most people, when they're looking at investment, really should be asking for probably at least double, because they haven't put into that investment plan what we call disaster money. And we know in business that no matter how smoothly you think things are going to go, there are going to be impacts on you. For example, just strange impacts. It could be disasters, but a few of my friends have been attacked recently by a crazy guy, and they've lost customers because of this crazy guy. So you just need to understand that you need disaster money built into your numbers, if you like, rescue money. There was somebody's business plan I did, and they were asking for about 10,000 from the bank, and I increased it to 20,000, which unfortunately they didn't do. I wish they had listened to me, because the bank easily gave them the 10,000, and they would have given them the 20,000, and because they didn't ask for the 20,000, they had a disaster, and they had nothing to recover that business from. In the UK, we have a television program called The Dragon's Den. There's lots of YouTube videos and clips of Dragon's Den. And in Dragon's Den, you have a number of investors who've made hundreds of millions. They're multimillionaires, and they are going to invest in your business. Now, the number one question they ask in Dragon's Den, that's the first thing they ask, is, what are your numbers? What is your expenditure? And they know instantly if you're saying, oh, it's 100,000, they know you're wrong, because the number is not correct. And that's the first thing I ask for is your spreadsheet. I want to know your expenditure. I also want to know your income, how much money you're going to make in your business. Now, if you said that I was going to make 10,000 in my business, it's not a viable business for me to invest in, purely because I know you've got living costs and so on. So if you have not inbuilt your own salaries and your expenses to the people, your contractors, I know your business is going to fail. So these are important numbers. It's not just your expenditure, but also your living costs, your salaries, if you like. And that's why I guess in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series, they say you need to pay yourself first, because if you have no money, how are you going to help others? How are you going to do? Actually, there was someone shared to something really important with me. If you don't have money, how can you give money to other people? If you don't have any time, how can you give time to other people? If you don't have any resources, how can you give resources to other people? So these are important things that you need for yourself. You need extra time, you need extra money, you need extra resources. That's where you can help and give value to other people. All right, so the next thing that I ask for is proof. How do I know that your numbers are correct? So in the property world, I mentioned the comparables and the rentals, and we can quickly find out how much those rentals are in the UK, because we've got tools and sites like Rightmove and YourMove, no, not YourMove, yes, Rightmove and Zoopla, that's it. And Rightmove and Zoopla, they actually have how much rental people are asking for in those areas and how much they're getting. Of course, you can also visit the estate agents, because we always like to triangulate our numbers. The same with people asking for investment for their business. I want to have proof of your numbers. And again, people are saying, oh, yes, we're going to get this number of sales. Prove it to me. How do I know? Well, because lots of people have said that they would buy the product from us. Now, this is a very important lesson that we're sharing here. And by the way, guys, please do write your comments below and share your challenges with numbers that you've had in your businesses, because I think it helps everybody. So I always want to know proof. How do I know that you're actually going to get this amount of money? The number one, if you like, target for investors is, if I give you 100,000, how fast am I going to get my money back? That's the first thing. And then they're going to look at what you're going to give with that investment. It might be equity, it might be a annual return, and so on. So what is my return? And how do I know you're going to get those sales? So with property, it's pretty straightforward, because we just go to areas and we can show just from a track record of that area that we can get those sales. If we're developing an area, a building, or creating a new building, we look at the demand, and we can show proof from the council. We can see how many companies are moving into that area. But if it was sales, like you were selling social magnetism books, for example, how do I know how well you are going to sell those books, or tickets to an event? Now, what I normally suggest people do is they run small events, just a small one, a tester event, to see how many people will come along and how many people will actually pay that price. So recently, people have said, no, we'll get all these sales. And I said, okay, prove it. And they said, well, we had all these people turn up. Yeah, but they didn't buy anything. You didn't close them on anything. So how do I know that they would buy? Well, Ben, because they said they would buy. Well, I don't believe that. You know, again, I'll come back to that phrase. I think it was my American friends who tell me this. What do they say? I think it goes something like, money talks and bullshit walks. So lots of people will tell you, hey, you've got a great business. Of course I'll buy. And unless it's below a certain amount, they probably won't. It's 3 grand, 4 grand, 10 grand, 20,000, 100,000. They're probably not likely to buy. One of the numbers that you have to look at for example, clubs, because I do a lot of coaching and how to turn clubs into profitable businesses, is who is your target audience? And again, I'm looking at these numbers. Who's your target audience? And if there are people who can't pay you on anything for your clubs, I'm saying, okay, I know you've got all these people who say they'll buy, but they have no money. So the figures don't make sense. Guys, so please just do, if you're thinking about even approaching me for investment or anybody else, have a document which shows your numbers. It is so important. Recently, I've asked people to write business plans. You can get them in England just from the banks. They actually give you the templates for a business plan. The business plan will help you understand your numbers. It will show you what you will be spending money on, because the banks are they want to get their money back. That's why they have all these numbers in. And it will show you how to track your income. And they ask for the worst possible case and the best possible case. We do the same thing in property. We look at the best case scenario, the worst case scenario, and what is most likely to happen. All right, so guys, I hope you found this information useful. Please do share it with your friends and your business friends, people in property, and so on. And again, please do comment, and also, I love the comments and the shares that many people are sending me, but also ask me perhaps what other stuff you'd like me to share and talk about.